Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. Welcome to the channel. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. And if you're new, thank you for joining us for the first time. Please take a look around, read the descriptions of what the channel is all about. But I can tell you that if you have borderline personality disorder and you're looking to lead a more effective life using skills such as DBT, then you are in the right place. My goal is to help you achieve your goals, whether that is in finance, love, career stability, emotional regulation. My goal is to impart my experience in the last 20 years of recovery of borderline personality disorder in combination with skills such as DBT. I'm not a therapist or a life coach, but I can answer one very important question that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? In the 20 years since I have been diagnosed, I have done multiple rounds of DBT. I have read books, reread them, done workbooks, done exercises. I've used my DBT skills to my full advantage. I've been in group therapy, one-on-one therapy. I've stayed on top of research. I think you get the idea. I'm pretty darn committed. So, if that sounds good to you, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week. And if you are a loved one or a family member or just someone who is interested in positive approaches to BPD recovery, you are also in the right place, so please keep tuning in. And I also have a collection of videos for you entitled Vids for the Family, ways that you can help support and understand BPD. Let's get right into it. So this will be a relatively shortish video. I want to talk today about three questions that I ask myself before making any decision, major decision, or when considering a behavior that I'm about to act upon. Now, most of these three things that I'm about to mention, they come to me pretty quickly these days, and you might find that they come pretty intrinsically to you, that you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about them. However, I also have had times where I've had a really difficult decision to make or a larger decision to make, right? Like the type of latte that you want at Starbucks is a totally different kind of decision that you'll have to decide in contrast to, should I take this job? Where should I move next? Do I want to be with this person? Should I get married? Etc. So let me share with you the three questions that I ask myself to keep me effective and to help me navigate my emotions and keep my decisions in life. Now, why is this important? Well, because if you have BPD, you are very familiar with what it's like to feel emotional fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is an overactive physical body that presents a lot of pain and stimulus in people that has no known cause. So the pain is real, the physical pain is real for people who suffer from fibromyalgia. However, doctors can't seem to pinpoint where the pain comes from, and thus the way to treat the pain is often left to interpretation. Some people use physical therapy or chiropractors, others are put on medicines, and so having BPD is the emotional version of that. And so I call that emotional fibromyalgia, which simply means we feel all sorts of emotional pain more intensely, more raw, as if you've removed our skin and our emotions hit our skin and we feel them deeply and intensely. You may feel a raindrop if you don't have BPD, but for us, that feels like a tsunami, right? So we feel things very deeply. And with BPD, you also experience something called emotional lability, which is the frequent fluctuation and changing of moods. You're happy in the morning, you're ready to kill yourself at 3 p.m., and then you have hope again at 9 p.m. It's a rough example, but it's happened to you, right? It's definitely happened to me, right? Like I feel like I want to kill myself sometimes, and then then I find hope. Now I'm in no way absolutely making light of suicide attempts or suicidal thoughts. They're very serious and I take them very serious, and I have been on both sides of that spectrum. So if you do have those kinds of thoughts and you are thinking about acting on them seriously, or you need some support, please call your local helpline or the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Call a friend, tune into a video, do anything to distract yourself. But emotional ability does play in to self-harm and suicide, doesn't it? Because BPD has one of the highest rates behind bipolar of completed suicides within all of the mental health disorders. And that is in large part because we have this emotional fibromyalgia. We feel things very deeply. We do feel really depressed, even though people think you're not that depressed. You don't feel that, right? Like they'll say those things to minimize us. And combined with those feelings, we have this ability to just be impulsive and act on it. And so when you're feeling really desperate and you are prone to acting on things very quickly and impulsively, that can be a real troublesome trigger and problem, not only for your physical safety, but for other people's physical safety or your financial security or your emotional security. So let's get right into it. Here are the 3 questions that I ask myself in any situation. 1, what am I feeling? A big part, I think, of BPD recovery is learning what are the emotions, what are the feelings. It sounds very basic and elementary to start there. I know in my DBT courses and in some of the literature, they gave us those old, those sheets of paper with all of the different faces, like happy, sad, despondent, bored, right? Maybe you've seen them like magnets, like I am feeling this today. And then like you take the little magnet and you put it near the face that you're feeling. Learning what those feelings are seems like something very simple that everyone has mastered. However, if you have BPD, you may not necessarily be in tuned and in touch with what you're feeling. I know I certainly wasn't, right? If you'd ask me at any given time, like what I was feeling, I'd be like anger, 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 right? Like 20 times out of 20, I would tell you anger. However, when you peel back, right, that emotion, you get a little deeper, right? Like anger for me is a secondary emotion dressed up as something different, right? So maybe instead of anger, what you're really feeling at the heart of it is shame or betrayal or hurt or grief or loss, right? These are all emotions that would play into feeling angry. And so if you have never been emotionally matured or been in an environment growing up that was healthy for you to explore those feelings safely and to be in touch with those things and to see how those types of emotions are played out in a healthy, effective manner, then you grow up not knowing what you're feeling. And that's a problem, isn't it? Why? Because if you don't know that you're angry, or you don't know that you're sad, or you don't know if you're feeling fear or shame, then it's very hard to choose a path to walk down next, right? So if you're in a workplace and what you come to find out is that the reason that you're having all of these problems at work is because you feel resentment, because you are, passed over all of the time, or your contributions are never fully recognized, or you feel underappreciated, or you don't get the credit that you deserve. Over time, that's resentment, right? And so if you're feeling resentment, that can be it can be great to tap into that and be like, oh, I'm feeling resentful, right? Now, why does that help? Why does what I am feeling help in our decision making? Because that takes us to tip number 2. So let's take that same scenario, right? You're feeling resentment. You've discovered that what you are feeling is resentment at work. So the next question that I would ask myself is, what do I want out of this situation? Now, what do I want can be a very small goal. Like, what do I want? I want to do 30 minutes of yoga today. Or it can be a huge goal, like I want to write a book one day, or I would like to have kids, something like that, right? But it can also just be a very simple task. So what do I want? If you're feeling resentment at work and you have decided, okay, what I want is to change jobs, to go to a environment where you feel more appreciated, if it's not attainable at your initial place of employment. I find once a workplace is pretty toxic, you know, if you see a lot of hires coming and going, if you feel like there's a revolving door at the front door, then, you know, that does not bode well for me. I find it very hard to reverse how I'm feeling at work if it's built up a pattern over time. And this is before I worked for myself. And I also just did a video, work triggers, and how to stay regulated. So check that video out. But let's say you've done the first step, I'm feeling resentment. And now the second step is to say, okay, what do I want? I want to leave my position. However, I also know that I need to keep money coming in because I have this payment, this payment coming up, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. And I've quit jobs before, and I know that if I just walk out, then I'm not going to get any kind of money coming my way, and that's going to be a huge problem for me. So, all right, you're feeling resentment, and you've decided that you want to change your job, but in contrast, you also, though you want to leave, you also need the money until you can figure out a way to replace that income and be in a more effective environment or healthy environment. That leads us to the third question. What is the most effective way to go about achieving my goals? Okay, so you've discovered that you are feeling resentment. You've taken a good look within. I feel resentment at work because I'm underappreciated. I'm never assigned the assignments I want. I've been passed over promotion 3 times. What I want is to change jobs and become employed in a healthy environment. And the most effective way for me to go about my goals is going to be the biggest part of this 3-question challenge. So this requires a lot of planning. What is the most effective way to go about my job or achieving my goals? Okay, so remember now, you've identified what you want is to leave the job, but keep the money coming in while you find another job. So you're going to have a few ways that you're going to have to go about this. The first being that you're going to need to stay positive at work, right? You don't want to tip your hat that you're unhappy. You don't want to physically or intellectually check out of your job so that you're not performing well, and now you're acting on that resentment, and then your boss sees that, and then maybe you get penalized, and then that could create a whole bunch of other problems that would work against your other goal of have money coming in while you find another job. So, okay, you're going to keep doing your work, you're going to stay positive, and you're going to perhaps adopt the path of least resistance while you do this. And then at home at night, or on your lunch break, you're going to look for another job. You're going to post your resume on Indeed. You're going to network with people. You're going to search jobs. Perhaps you're going to look at creating your own business. That's what I did. I mean, it's not that hard. It really wasn't. It just took time and a couple $100s to really start going. So those are the ways, those are the 3 questions. That's a quick example. What am I feeling? Tapping into that, which can be difficult. What do I want? And asking yourself, what is the most effective way to go about achieving my goals? So often those of us with BPD, we're wrapped up in a tornado of feelings, and we don't know what we're feeling, and then we're just reacting, and we're reacting, and we're not thoughtfully responding, and we're not setting a plan for ourselves, and then we just find ourselves kind of in a situation where, like, how the heck did I get here, right? So let me come up with an example here, one that's actually happened to me, and we'll talk about a trigger. So a big trigger for me right now is people that don't wear their masks, and that's hugely problematic for me because I don't live in a single family home. I live in a group, not a group house. I live in a multi-family residence, so like there's about 200 families or individuals that live here. There's 3 elevators. Now normally I try to just take the steps, but sometimes I have to take the elevators because I have laundry or I'm bringing up groceries or something of this nature. So, and the elevators are quite small. So I get off my elevator, or I see somebody coming, and they don't have a mask on. And that, to me, not wearing a mask is a threat to my safety. and to other safety, and it's a complete disregard for not only the law where I live in my city and state, but also for other people's health, okay? So what am I feeling? Disgust. So let's go through these 3 questions. What am I feeling? Disgust, anger, that they think that they're somehow immune to wearing the mask, or they don't have to follow the law, they're a cool rule breaker. What do I want in that situation? Well, what I want is to tell them off, right? Or say, go wear a freaking mask. And sometimes you do have to do that, okay? Because you need to keep yourself safe. There's not going to be every situation. Listen, your feelings, if you're not wearing a mask, sparing your feelings is not as important as my health. That's just how it is. I'm not trying to die. So if you have to go with the next hour feeling a little bit boo-hoo because someone hurt your feelings and challenged you, that's perfectly fine with me. Wear a fucking mask. Okay. So what do I want in this situation? All right, well, yeah, of course I'd love to tell the person off, but what I really want is to stay safe, right? I don't want anyone to breathe on me or share a small space with me. I want to get out of that situation as quickly as possible. So what is the most effective way to going about that goal? Well, for me, that is taking the steps. That is using the elevator at off hours, right? So I try to avoid it at heavy traffic times. That would be lunchtime, or when people are returning home for work, or when people are going to work. I wear 2 masks to double up on my safety, right? I will take the stairs very quickly. I will walk routes that there's not a lot of people on. Those are the ways that I would go over. Now, if I were to create an argument, which I have, or act on my anger or tell someone off, would that accomplish my way of feeling protected? It could in certain situations, and it has. I have asked people, like if I've been in a restaurant getting food and they've got their mask around, I'll be like, hey, could you please put that up? And they do. They don't. I think a group mentality takes over. Like they're looking at the one person not wearing a mask. But perhaps, what if it escalated and now we're yelling at each other, right? So now we've got more droplets going and now we're in close proximity. And then what if a physical altercation were to happen and then someone gets arrested? I mean, that just leads to all of these kinds of problems. And then you're in the whirlwind again. So using these 3 questions, I hope can be helpful to you in making any kind of small or large life decision. What am I feeling? What do I want? And what is the most effective way to go about achieving my goals? My name's Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. Thank you for tuning in. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. Leave your comments below because they really do help me and I think the rest of the community. And until I speak with you next time, please be effective. Bye.